something to happen now that we actually have our authentication redirecting us appropriately. We want something to happen based on the ID that's up here. Whackety schmackety. We know we're getting that. Yeah, cool. We know we're getting the ID in a param. So, back in note form, we're getting the param as a prop, right? So, if that prop changes, we want to do something. Remember our old friend, the lifecycle function component will receive props? Maybe we need to do something with that again. So since it's a lifecycle function, the only thing I would put above it is the constructor, but we still don't have one of those. So component will receive props. And we know that the argument it gets is what the props are about to change to, but they haven't changed yet. So this dot props are still the old props. And why am I allowed to just put this magically named function and it will just run at the right time? Because we're extending the component class from React, and that has that built in, and we are just overriding that method from the parent class. So now the idea here is if the ID that's in the params, the route params, isn't the same as the ID of the note that we're currently using, we want to change the current note to that note, right? Agreed? So, once again, we'll compare those IDs. Let's see again how those props looked. Let me put in another fake ID. Oh, now my redirect is actually not happy. So when I went to notes / something, watch what happened. It took me to sign in and then to notes. What's up with that? So this should match, right? Notes / something should match route path equals notes. And we are signed in, so it should render main, not redirect to sign in. It's like once we added this, the fact that it wasn't an exact match, but we don't have exact in here. Now we have this down here. It seems like now we're suddenly matching this instead of the other. Maybe no, because we're actually getting redirected to sign in first. You know what's happening? Auth handler hasn't run yet. When it first loads, it starts listening for an auth state change, and then it runs auth handler, and then it shows us a signed in. We're rendering the page. We're trying out this route before that's finished. So when it first checks whether we're signed in, we're not, even though we are, because it just hasn't caught up yet. It hasn't run auth handler yet. So it's redirecting us too fast. How can we deal with this? What if when we get the UID, which happens in auth handler, right? We set state and put the UID there. What if we also put the UID in local storage? So we can get it faster and don't have to wait for a network operation. So in auth handler, we'll set the state. When that's done, we still want to call sync notes. But we'll also put it in local storage. So let's say local storage dot set item UID to user data.uid. Now that means we should also probably remove it when we sign out, right? So in sign out, we're doing a few things explicitly here, and then some other things are happening in the on auth state changed. Or no, not in the morning class. They're not. Sign out. We actually sign out, and then we remove the binding from Firebase. We reset the current note to an empty one, and we set the state so the UID is null. So we also need to, I put it before state the other time, so we'll do that here too. Local storage dot remove item. We tried that in the console. I don't think we've actually used it in the real world yet. So we'll remove UID from local storage when we sign out. So then the whole point is, very early on, we will load that back. Heck, we could do that before we set our initial state if we wanted to. Let's make a new function. I'll put it right under the constructor and our lifecycle methods. Get user from local storage. Const UID equals local storage dot get item UID. And then we could say if not UID return. What am I doing there? I'm just getting the heck out if there's nothing in local storage, right? No, I don't really need an else. This dot set state UID, because my variable is named the same thing as the item and state that I'm changing. I can use the shorthand. So I suppose we'll do it after we set our initial state. We can probably do it in component will mount safely enough. This dot get user from local storage. That is synchronous, so it should wait before it moves on. So we should be able to make this happen before we try to match that route. Do you understand why we have a problem in the first place and why this might fix it? So the route, before it decides where to send us, it first checks whether we're signed in or not, right? So we went to /notes/something. It checked whether we were signed in, and right when the page first loaded, it hadn't finished talking to Firebase yet, because that happens asynchronously. It happens in the background. So it hit this line before that had finished and determined, nope, not signed in. We should redirect to sign in. And then the Firebase thing finished, and it said, the heck, we aren't signed in. Go back to notes. Because now I'm on the sign-in path, and I am signed in, so I need to go to notes. So that's what was happening. So now we're trying to make it so that by the time it checks whether we're signed in, we already know the UID because we saved it in local storage. So the very next time, it's not in local storage yet, so we're going to have to, well, no, it probably already re-rendered and did that. So let's see what happens. Let's go to notes/something or other. Okay, it did not redirect me. I'm still at the same URL. Cool, we fixed it. Yay, go us. So a component will receive props is the whole point of what we were doing. Let's see how we deal with it.